kind of settles in, just like to quickly say that hello, thank you for coming. I am Alyssa Solachik, and I am with the Housing and Community Development Division of the Planning Department, who has prepared the information that we will share with you this evening. So again, thank you all for coming. Just kind of as we kind of settle in a little bit, we do have a sign-in sheet at the entrance booth, so if you haven't signed in yet, please do so. We will be taking photos, already kind of taking photos and videos, so just be aware of that. We do have Spanish and ASL interpretation services available. They're at the sign-in table, so if anybody does need assistance, they are back there. They're waving at us now. And also, if any of you have questions throughout the evening, please let our city staff know. There's quite a few of us here in attendance this evening. The focus for tonight's event is to look at the Housing and Community Development Division's accomplishments in 2023. And these accomplishments are specifically highlighted in our CAPER. We'll talk a lot about different acronyms and federal programs tonight. The CAPER, though, stands for the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, which the purpose of that is to present the city's progress toward our one-year goal or the accomplishments of our annual action plan, and then the 5-year goals of our consolidated plan. And so the CAPER essentially is our annual report on our activities. The city is an entitlement community, so we receive funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development on an annual basis. And so the CAPER is, again, our reporting to HUD and to our community as to our progress with our federal programs. So this CAPER, it's a fairly large document, it's approximately 90 pages, but we do have a summary document available as well. And just kind of highlights and recaps the accomplishments from the year. The documents are also available in English and Spanish, and they're at the sign-in desk, so please do feel free to take a copy and review it if you haven't done so already. We also have a few copies of the full draft. You can also access the documents using the QR sheet that's available, or by visiting our website, which is planninghcd.cityofomaha.org. I guess it was down today, but it will be up and running. Some introductions to some of our organizations. We've invited some organizations that were funded and are reflected in the 2023 CAPER report. And so these folks are available to answer questions about their programs, just some highlights of some of the accomplishments that they've had this year. And just very briefly, I want to kind of highlight or introduce the organizations that are here. In addition to our HCD staff, we also have our lead program staff, so we have information available about various city programs. We also have Family Housing Advisory Services here to talk about their programs. 75 North is available as well. Catholic Charities is here. Salvation Army's Away to Work program is here. Project Houseworks and JSU are also available. Then Omaha 100, and then Omaha Economic Development Corporation is talking about the Larimore project. We've got some renderings available. And we thank each of the organizations who are here. We really appreciate the work that you do in our community, and we definitely appreciate your attendance here this evening. Thank you to those of you that are here in attendance for the general public. And we really appreciate your interest. The CAPER serves as a great opportunity to provide additional feedback to the city about the activities and the programs that we funded. So there is a public comment period that is associated with this particular meeting and this particular document, and will provide more information about how to provide comments and when later in the presentation. So with that, I am going to hand things off to Nicole, who will talk about the accomplishments for the year.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicole with the Planning Department. If you've been around for a while, you probably already know me and are familiar with how this presentation goes. So I want to start off with an update on the 2024 to 2029 consolidated plan. 2023 was the last year of this current plan. So what you can see on your summary sheet will include where we fell on not just our annual goals, but also the end of the cycle goals. So what we met, what we didn't, and those are all over on the right-hand side of the page. So the public hearing for the 2024 consolidated plan was in September, and so the public comment period was then, and it's ready to basically go. It was passed through the planning board earlier this month, and then once we are reliant on the federal government to pass a budget before we can submit our consolidated plan or our action plan. So that was passed last Friday, March 8th, yay. And now HUD will be able to give us our allocation with our final budget. So if you were awarded 2024 funds, your agreements can be entered into once HUD gives us our final allocation. We make some budget modifications, and then we'll go to City Council, have the consolidated plan approved there, and then submit to HUD. And once they approve it, then we can enter into agreements. So if you have 2024 funds, that is your timeline. Next slide, please. We want to highlight 3 important terms for the evening: CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, HOME, which is the Home Investment Partnership Fund, and ESG Emergency Solutions Grant. These are the 3 types of entitlement funds that the city receives on an annual basis. They're not the only funds that we have, and we'll talk about in this presentation, but they are the main ones. Next page, please. So the consolidated plan lays out 7 priority needs and 13 goals. The goals all feed into the needs, and then every project that we fund feeds into the goals. So these are, when you're looking at the projects that we funded and you're looking at the summary sheet, each of these that's listed is one of the goals that we've set. So the next consolidated plan has very similar, if not exactly the same goals, because while we may make some progress towards them, unfortunately, entitlement funds are not sufficient to actually address all of the need in each of those goals. Next slide, please. So the first thing that we want to address is the housing construction and rehabilitation plan. In 2023, 4 new single-family homes were completed and sold. That is mostly from, those are all new construction, sorry. We had 476 owner-occupied rehabilitation projects. Most of those are from the senior home repair program, which was formerly known as the handyman program, so you may be familiar with that. We also had 8 vacant homes rehabilitated for new buyers. That is the homestead program through Project Houseworks. And then 9 vacant multifamily units were rehabbed and rented out. Additionally, our CDBG funds support a slum and blight elimination goal. And the way that we are meeting that is by, we demolish unsound structures, which are referred to us from code enforcement. And then we also are providing the funds for a code enforcement building inspector who only really works in the north and south neighborhood strategy revitalization areas. And they did 445 inspections this year. Next slide, thank you. So this is an example of one of Project Houseworks rehab programs. It's the outside. Next slide, please. And this is the interior of that home. Next slide, please. Okay, the rental rehab program is a program that takes vacant rental units and provides a property owner with funds that they have to match to rehab their rental unit. That unit is then rented out to low and moderate income households and has to comply with HUD rent limits for the duration of their compliance period, which is typically 15 years. Yeah, good number. So The OEDC's Larimore project will include 45 units that will fall under that program. The next one is the commercial building improvements. So CDBG is usually the fund that supports this kind of project. This example is from the North 24th Street Facade Improvement Program. So in 2024, we completed 3, or in 2024, we will complete 3, and that will put us well over our goal in the consolidated plan of 6 projects. Next slide, please. This is a map of where all of our projects took place. Most of them are in North Omaha. The little green dots are mostly going to be probably handyman or senior home repair programs. So we'd like to expand and get better reach into South Omaha. But for the most part, we are in North Omaha. Next slide, please. Next up is homebuyer education and financing. This is provided by FAS. In 2023, Family Housing Advisory Services provided counseling to 112 low and moderate income households, and then Omaha 100 provided financial assistance to 10 moderate and low income homebuyer households. Next slide, please. Homeless services is what I know best. So Emergency Solutions Grant is the primary fund for homeless services from the city. In 2023, we had 3,086 individual people stay at the 2 emergency shelters that we support. One is Santa Francis House, and the other is Stevens Center, which is just down the street. We also had 31 households assisted through the Rapid Rehousing Program. So Together has a Rapid Rehousing Program, and Heartland Family Service has a Rapid Rehousing Program. Together they served 31, although only 27 people ended up with housing. So sometimes people go missing or move to where family is, and then they exit those programs without housing. And then finally we fund Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, which is through ICA. They provide training and maintenance to the HMIS system that operates the coordinated entry system and the community queue for people to, I don't want to say be tracked, but that's kind of what it is. Just so that we can keep up with what services people are utilizing. Next slide, please. Job training and preparation is a long time how we've spent the bulk of our public services funds from CDBG. So we have funded the Step Up Job Training Program for quite a long time, as well as the Latino Center for the Midlands. We also have the Salvation Army's Way to Work program, which takes people who are currently homeless and provides them with employment for a short period of time, as well as counseling and case management services. In 2023, a total of 168 people received job training through those programs, and then 9 businesses received assistance through the Catholic Charities Micro Enterprise Program, and 4 jobs were created with the Ames Industrial Park project. Next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. So our Lead Hazard Control Office receives funds from both HUD and the EPA to run the Superfund site and to run a lead hazard abatement program. So in 2023, 44 lead hazard control inspections and 21 lead-based paint assessments were completed. So the lead control program will go into a home and look at the condition of the paint that's in the house, and if it's cracked, they can replace the windows, they can spray paint, repaint, and prevent lead poisoning in kids, which is quite high in East Omaha because our housing stock is old in general. They also had 35 city subcontractors receive lead training, 23 housing units received the lead housing control activities, 63 events that our office attended to share childhood lead poisoning prevention information, and they sampled soil at 23 parcels as part of the EPA lead grant. The city of Omaha has the largest residential Superfund site in the country, and slowly but surely we are working our way through to address all 15,000 lots, around that number, of contaminated lots. So we're getting there. They also sampled soil at 29 public schools and did remediation at 104 parcels last year, so that's really cool. Next, please. Okay. In 2022, the city and OHA were awarded a fiscal year 2021 Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant for Southside Terrace in the Indian Hills Transformation Area. The transformation plan proposes to replace 358 units that are currently at Southside Terrace with a total of 746 newly constructed mixed income and market rate housing units. This includes moving folks out of the current Southside Terrace place with a voucher and support, and then giving them first right of refusal back at replacement housing, which is not necessarily just at Southside Terrace. In 2023, neighborhood planners led a team to survey the neighborhood and Southside Terrace residents about their preferences to measure progress since the 2020 survey, as well as prioritizing neighborhood improvements. Additionally, the neighborhood and the housing committee of area residents was regularly convened to give input on the project, and this committee has helped shape the architectural decisions of the upcoming first phase, which is anticipated to start in the spring or summer. Additionally, a streetscape project was completed at 30th and U, which included new street trees and new sidewalks. Okay. I think I did. I'm so sorry. Now let's go to the North CNI area. So we have two CNI Choice Neighborhood grants that we've received from HUD. I believe we're the only city that has received two grants, at least within such a short period of time. So that's a really big deal for us. And we're very proud of our neighborhood planners for that work. So the North 30th Street with 75 North was awarded in May of 2019. There are 4 major housing phases, and most of them will be complete in 2024. They are typically 5-year implementation grants, so 2024 would be the end of that cycle. So, I think that's about it for that. So the curb appeal program was operated in the North CNI area, and 3 projects were completed in 2023. In the following years, we're anticipating that program expanding into South Omaha and the South CNI area as well. So hopefully that will start this year. Okay, so the CARES Act provided CDBG CV and ESG CV funds to us. This was part of the COVID preparation, planning, and response. So all of the funds that were used for CV projects had to be responding to, preparing for, or addressing the impacts of COVID. So with the CDBG CV funds, we received about $4.8 million, which is about the same amount of CDBG we typically receive in a year, but they can't be used until 2026, but all of our projects are wrapping up. So with that money, we provided for COVID testing at One World Community Health Center, and this is for the entirety of the CARES Act funding. We haven't really reported on it in our paper before because it didn't include a place to, but now that all those programs are wrapped up, it's a good time for the wrap up. So 4,943 people received COVID testing at One World Community Health Center. 40 jobs were created through the North End Teleservices Job Creation Program, and they had a contract with DHHS to help connect people to COVID testing and other COVID resources. So it was beneficial to the community that way as well. 20 jobs were created through the No More Empty Pots Job Creation Program, and they trained people to work in kitchens and also had a meal delivery for people who had COVID right now. Okay, that part didn't get. 67 businesses received small business loans and technical assistance through the Nebraska Enterprise Fund for Micro Enterprises. And then the city provided CDBG CV assistance for Together to purchase a hotel that they have converted into an uncongregate shelter. And that will tie in with the ESGCV. 334 households received emergency rental or mortgage assistance from FAS. And then we will go on to the next slide. So the ESGCV funds, we received about $5.6 million for the 3-year period. Typically, we receive a little under $400,000 a year for ESG funding. So it was a huge boom for our providers. We spent 97% of our funds, which is great because a lot of our providers have been running not quite on fumes, but they've been underfunded and understaffed for a long time. So it's actually a challenge to be able to fill all those roles and fill all the need to use all that funding in the allotted time. So we funded rapid rehousing programs in addition to our Together and Heart and Family Service that we fund every year. We also provided funding to WCA to provide rapid rehousing for households fleeing domestic violence, and to youth emergency services for people under the age of 26. All said, we had 106 households, which were made up of 131 individuals, receive rapid rehousing assistance through the CD program. We funded emergency shelter. Those funds were typically used not for their regular activities, but for additional food because they weren't receiving the food donations that they normally use. Sienna Francis House ran a COVID unit so that people who were unhoused and needed a place to quarantine while they had COVID could go there and have a safe place to stay, have food brought to them. And then also things like transporting to testing and plexiglass barriers, things that made desegregating, decongregating easier for these facilities where typically people are jammed in a little bit tight. Then for prevention, we typically do not fund prevention activities with with ESG because we just don't have the funds. But we were able to do that with Heart and Family Service and Youth Emergency Services to keep people in their homes or to help people rapidly divert from homelessness if they were needing to exit their current housing. So that was 152 households, 364 individuals, and 180 of those were kids. So keeping kids in housing is something I'll always be happy to do. We funded street outreach, which we also typically do not fund for ESG because, again, we don't have the money, but we were able to put in about $1 million to street outreach and funded, I think, 7 new street outreach positions at 5 different agencies. So if you see that logo, if you see someone wearing a shirt or a hoodie with that logo on it, that's the street outreach team. And they are out every day talking to people who are unhoused, unsheltered, and helping them connect to services and just have someone that hopefully they can trust and gain a relationship with that can help them move on into a sheltered environment or housing. So those folks served 945 households through the 3 years, which was a little over 1,000 individuals. And I will just add, because I can, that our unhoused population, our unsheltered population has really exploded over the last several years. So before the pandemic, it was holding pretty stable at around 50 people. It's now up over 200 and has been for the last couple of years. So it's an ongoing issue, and I'm very pleased that all of the agencies who got new staff are retaining them, and Sienna Francis even hired an additional 2 more street outreach folks. Another thing that we had done was provide for non-congregate emergency shelter. So that was basically, we rented out a hotel. We had 2 hotels from January 2001 till September 2001, and in that time served, let me see, 231 households.
2001 or
It's
2021?
231 households.
No, but
in
the
tw-
year you said.
oh,
2001.
21. Sorry about that. Thank you. So that program proved so successful in preventing returns to homelessness that we were all in when together said that they wanted to buy a hotel and do this on full time. So that hotel is on Douglas Street. It's operating full time as an emergency shelter now with private funding. We funded the hotel purchase, but aren't funding it anymore, and they are always full and always have a wait list. It just is a really different environment from your typical emergency shelter, and one that we would really like to be able to support further. Then finally we have, well, not finally, the American Rescue Plan Act. So this was more federal stimulus for economic recovery from COVID-19. In 2021, the American Rescue Plan allocated $112 million in ARPA funds to the city, and then the city then committed $20 million of that to affordable housing, administered through a partnership with Front Porch. They've leveraged that to an additional $40,000 to address affordable housing. In 2023, approximately $9 million of this was awarded to 6 projects, totaling more than $9 million, to support the creation of approximately 295 new affordable housing units. And an additional $3 million was awarded to 14 community-based housing organizations for operational capacity building, which is huge because everyone wants to be the funder of last resort, and no one wants to fund operations, pay staff. Everyone wants to have the concrete outcome, and so being able to provide support for operational capacity leads us to be able to show those better outcomes. Next slide, please. Then our emergency rental assistance fund. So this also came out of the American Rescue Plan. We received $19 million, no, $90 million for emergency rental assistance, and that has been going out the door in a partnership with Match since 2022. Omaha led the way in the amount distributed to people. We were number 1 in getting that out to households that needed it, and it helped people stay in their housing. In 2023, we supported 975 households with about $4 million in mostly rental assistance, some utility assistance. In August, we paused the rental assistance distribution, having about $9 million left in our pot of funds. So we've distributed $80-some million in rental assistance. With that $9 million, we took a pause because what we saw happening was we were only funding rental assistance in eviction court, and so what we saw was that that was having an impact on making evictions go up, because that's where folks knew they could get their rent paid. So we paused, and we are working with Match and our partners who are providing services to switch gears and focus more on housing stability. So we will have partners who are providing light touch case management and partners providing a little bit more case management. And we will also have rental assistance still for those households after they've had a housing problem solving conversation with one of our case managers, so that we're working on stability and not just paying your rent so that you are not terribly unlikely to return to court 6 months later and then be evicted. So that pivot is happening now. We're working on it. It should be starting up soon. I don't have a date. I wish I could tell you I did, but I don't. So we're really excited about building something. 1 second, I'll get right to you, that can last, hopefully. What's that? Can I get to you, and we'll have questions in just a minute.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing here.
Oh.
I'm probably not the only one here. Could you hold the mic closer to your mouth or turn it up?
Yeah,
Please?
yes, I'm so sorry. Okay, so 2 more things. Home ARP is funding also from the American Rescue Plan. that is intended to assist folks who are currently homeless or fleeing domestic violence. Therefore, qualified populations at that second bullet there. So we were awarded $8.2 million, and in 2023 we spent $37,000 of that because we have been planning. So I know that some of you are very interested in when that RFP is coming out, and it will be coming out along with our regular entitlement funds this spring. So I know I've been saying it for a long time, but it's actually ready to go. With this, we're hoping to fund some more on congregate shelter, but it's primarily targeted to build or rehabilitate housing that then will have to be occupied by people from those qualified populations for 15 years. And what we're hoping to do is to be able to work with rapid housing programs and permanent supportive housing programs who already have rental assistance for folks to then move them into these units, because one of the biggest issues that we have with our homeless population is that there are not landlords who are willing to rent to them or to work with programs. There are a lot of reasons for that. Some of them are stigma, some of them are really very realistic financial concerns. But with this, we're hoping to guarantee about 20 new units for people who are exiting homelessness. Next slide, please. And then we have our Section 108 loans. So this is using $20 million to create a loan pool, and we finally had that approved by HUD. It's been a long time coming. And it will be able to provide financing for pre-development, real property acquisition, housing rehabilitation, and community-based development organizations to conduct their activities, CBDOs, and then also new housing construction can be done with that. So we have reached the end, finally, for real. What questions do you have for us?
Well, I'm curious. It seems like an awful lot of federal money has come in through ARPA, and that's not going to continue forever. So what happens then?
I mean, we're just trying to make the best use we can of this, hopefully once in a lifetime. I mean, I hope we don't have another COVID-like crisis anytime soon. And just trying to make the biggest impact we can with the funds that are not going to renew. Please, do you have a question?
Do you have the slides available?
They will be on our website.
Okay. They will be or they are? They will. Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a comment on what you guys just discussed. I know that nobody wants a repeat of COVID. And I think that what this money's supposed to do is change the landscape. It's not, the housing isn't going to disappear. It's going to be physical infrastructure here. So it's supposed to alleviate our problems. And I think that's a good thing.
So I apologize. I meant to repeat the first question, which was all of these funds are coming in from ARPA, but they're not going to last. So what next? And the response is we're just trying to make the biggest impact that we can while we have them. Yes?
Will there be an RFP process for the Section 108? How does that work?
The question is, will there be an RFP process for the Section 108 pool? And I'm going to let Greg tell you all about that.
So the Section 108 program will actually, in coming weeks, go live. It will be an ongoing application process. So once it goes, anytime you're ready to submit an application on a project, you will be able to do so.
Everyone do that. I'm gonna make it sorry.
So the Section 108 program, working on actually getting that to launch here in coming weeks. And that's going to be an application that will be an ongoing cycle. So when you have a project that's ready to submit, you'll be able to go online and submit that application, and it will be considered once it's submitted. So you don't have to wait once a year or twice a year for when that day might come.
All right, last call for questions. Okay, well, our providers, our partners are here, so ask them all the questions you want to ask quietly, and if you have questions for any of the city staff, hey, city staff, raise your hands. You can come find any of us. Thank you all.